Welcome to the podcast. The Aging Queen. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. And welcome back to another episode of The Aging Queen. My name is Louis Canetti, and I'm here with a regular guest, Dr. Kristen. How are you, Dr. Kristen?
Hey, I'm great, Lewis.
So, how you been? You went on a little trip to Korea?
I did. I actually went for skincare and the DMZ.
Oh, okay. What
I
a
know.
what a
Talk about
mix.
extremes. I know. And they were both awesome.
What's the best part about your trip? What did you like about South Korea?
I think I actually liked the DMZ the most. It was super,
Really?
super cool. So wacky. Like there is a clear, there's like a line essentially between North and South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a river, like it's a river border. And so you can see over the river to North Korea where they have the North Korean flags and these
Wow.
like uh, constructed cities where they take tourists to, and like it's like everything is perfect only in that one city, and you can see them from across the way, but we can't, like, the Americans can't go, so it's the closest that we'll ever get to North
You can
Korea.
see it.
Yeah, it's kooky.
Wow. Saw online or something. You can tell at night, especially from maps, that there's like all this tons of light on South Korean side, and there's like no lights on in North Korea. Is there
Yeah.
something? Is that something you can notice on the ground too when you're around there?
You can't see the lights like on or off during the day, but what you can see is the lack of trees.
Oh, wow.
Like on the South Korean side, on the South Korean side of that river, there's tons of forests and trees. On the
Mm-hmm.
North Korean side of that river, there's no trees. They have cut all of it down to burn for fuel because they don't have regular electricity and like oil and things like that like we do. So yeah, so lack of trees during the daytime and lack of lights at night. What's interesting is that North Korea does allow people from some countries to visit. The
Mm-hmm.
US is on the banned list, but they allow tourists from other countries.
Hmm.
But all of their tours go through one agency, which is
Mm-hmm.
government run and owned, and you only get to go to one city. That city that I was talking about, that's
Right.
like constructed to be perfect, where everything works and everyone
Right.
looks, quote unquote happy. And then they bus you to this one city where you spend a couple of days, and then they bus you out
Hmm.
back to the like airport, and then you leave. And that's you can't get on and off the bus in between,
Right.
and like you can't deviate from that itinerary. Like fascinating.
Mm.
Fascinating. Anyway,
Yeah. I don't
um,
think it would be me, but
I mean, I would be so curious to go, but I'm not allowed.
yeah.
But I think it's like a totally artificial experience because
Right.
they control the one place that you go and like the things that you do and
I'm sure
see.
everything is monitored, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's intriguing. It's state of the world affairs. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy times.
yeah, yeah. Crazy times.
So let's talk about today's episode, which is baldness and how psychologically hair loss affects men. On another episode, we touched on the hair transplants that were going on in Turkey, and it's just intriguing to me. I wanted to know more. I think our listeners would like to know more on how those procedures are done, why they're done, and why Turkey has become a mecca for this
Hmm.
procedure.
Yeah, no, those are all great questions. And I was doing some research today
Hmm.
into some of those questions. And just to give you a little bit of background information on
Hmm.
balding and like what it is, um, the they know that balding is due to a breakdown chemical of testosterone. So
Hmm.
testosterone breaks down into something called dihydrotestosterone, or
Hmm.
DHT, and it's that breakdown component that causes your hair to thin. Balding can start really as like right after puberty.
Mm.
That's when you are susceptible. That's when you're first susceptible to having to starting to bald, because that's when you have like the increase in testosterone in your body. And the more testosterone you have in your body, the more of this breakdown chemical DHT you have in your body.
So it is true what they say, when you have more testosterone, you usually have less hair on your head? Is
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
correlation?
As long, yes, that is one part of it. You have to also be genetically predisposed
Mm.
to being sensitive to DHT.
Mm. Okay.
So those are the two things. So you have, so genetically there's a genetic correlation. Like genetically you have the hair follicles on your head have to be sensitive, like sensitive in a bad way,
Mhm.
have to react badly to DHT. And then on top of that, you have to have testosterone in your body that's breaking down into DHT. If you have
Every
both of those, you bald.
every bald person or balding person that I know has a really good head for it. I don't I I think that, there's gotta be some correlation, and God or the universe is not so cruel in that sense, because they actually look good bald. A lot of
That's
men
so funny.
a lot of men have that perfect round head when they bald. It's you never see these, like, square heads, and they're naturally, bald men, you know?
I've
Um,
seen some ugly bald heads with like some
really?
like yucky moles on them. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I
I've
mean,
seen
I'm
some
talking
not
about
great
the
ones.
shape of the head. The shape is
Uh
usually that kinda round, you know,
yeah.
head. My head, for instance, is too blocky. It's like a square head. That's why I still got
I
hair
guess
on it.
thank goodness for small favors.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but, yeah, so, psychological consequences, of balding, is real. I think a lot of men some men actually get into depressions because of it. Um, so let's, chat about this a little bit. There was, a study at the National Institute of Health on the psychological, consequences. Those affected by hair loss often feel they look older than they are and fear social rejection when looking for a romantic partner. Not only do those suffering from hair loss worry about a loss of physical attractiveness, but they also perceive a loss of social attractiveness. People often correlate physical attractiveness to socially desirable traits such as friendliness when they know nothing more about a person. When people understand that hair loss puts them at a disadvantage from a social perspective, it can have a significant impact on their psychological well being. There's more to it than just hair.
Yeah, there's how you see yourself and how you believe others see you. Yeah.
And in that, um, opportunities at work because your self esteem is higher,
Yeah. I mean, I think in any
everything.
yeah, like we were talking about in our other episode with cosmetic surgery, like
Hmm.
how you feel about yourself, like you project that to others and then
Right.
they tend to feel the same way about back towards you. So if you project confidence, people feel that way towards you, but if you project like shame or embarrassment about who you are, then people they feel
They
that,
return it back to
they
you.
return
Yeah.
it back to you. So I think that feeling good about how you look is very important personally, whether
Yeah.
that's like coming to terms with how you look or changing how you look to be more in line with with how you want to be.
Right. So yesterday I went to this pop up uh, gay bar. Um,
Cool.
and because it's Pride Month, and I went there, and there was this, I guess you would call them a gaggle of gays, um, older men, probably 55 and up. And let me tell you, they were very well put together. Um,
Mm.
and some, were well tanned. I don't know if it was fake or not.
Mm.
But I, um, I just said, to myself, that's fantastic. I think it's not. I didn't want to say, "Oh, look, they're taking care of themselves," but it's something to applaud because you're aging with grace, and that's what you should look forward to, and something that's very positive with aging is we're all going to age, and it's a privilege to age. Um, but doing it gracefully is kind of like the goal, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, it looked
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
You know, it
Good. Good
was
for them. And
yeah.
gracefully, I think, can be interpreted in many ways. It can be like aging, aging um, without interference, like cosmetic interference. It can be aging with cosmetic interference. So
Oh,
gracefully, I
these
think
guys
it's
had some stuff done, but,
they hit some stuff. Yeah. Okay.
it might have just been non-surgical, but,
Yeah.
it was classy, and it was just like, it was like, okay. It wasn't
Yeah.
like,
Subtle. It was
yeah, it
subtle,
was
probably.
subtle. It was
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Yeah. So actually, speaking of the balding thing,
yes.
balding issue, I speaking of subtle changes, I found I was doing some research and there like the history of treatment for balding has changed over time. Currently, there's like a medicine you can take, Propecia. You've probably heard
Mhm,
of it.
mhm,
Um, and also Rogaine are the two kind of like medical, like medicine options you can take to slow down the balding,
mhm,
um, slow down balding. But Propecia, but they're a little bit different. Propecia is a pill, so you take it
mhm,
orally, and it blocks the conversion of testosterone to DHT. And it's the DHT that the hair follicles are like, it's the DHT that will make the hair follicles thin out. So Propecia blocks the conversion of testosterone to DHT. Um, but what that means is that you are like it, so it stops your hair from thinning, but only while you're taking the medicine. So if you take it for 5 years and then you stop, at that point you will start to like your hair will start to thin. So you have to be
mm,
on it. You have to commit to it for a really long time if you want to continue to have hair for a really long time.
mhm,
Um, this this pill, Propecia, has some significant side effects,
mhm.
mostly sexual dysfunction.
Okay, forget that.
Yeah, I know, including impotence, decreased libido, and difficulties ejaculating. And it's between 5% and 19% of people who take this medicine report those problems. So it's a fairly significant side effect.
Yeah, I mean, why go out of your way to buy the best fishing pole to go fishing when you can't even eat the fish?
Yeah, that's very true. Very
I
true.
mean, why am I
Very
gonna
true.
go out of my way to have the most colorful feathers like a peacock, and then, you can't do anything with it? So, no, I wouldn't I
I mean,
wouldn't
it's tough.
do it.
Like it's a tough call, because you might be one of the, people who don't have a side effect. I mean, 5 to 19% of people have side effect. Have
Right.
the sexual dysfunction side effect, but but 81% don't.
Hmm.
So it's kind of it's a crapshoot. You
Yeah.
might have it, and from what I was reading, it said that even people who discontinue the Propecia, some of them continue to report these side effects,
Right.
and it's
They can
unclear if
linger.
it's yeah, it's unclear if it's actually still a side effect from the medicine or if it's like their anxiety or depression related to going bald, to starting to go bald from stopping taking the medicine. So it's
Yeah.
unclear. The other medicine that you can use is Rogaine, and that's not a pill. That's actually like a foam or a cream that you
Mhm.
rub on your scalp.
Mhm.
And you have to rub that on your scalp twice a day, and that basically opens up your blood vessels. It's a vasodilator. Has nothing to do with stopping the conversion of testosterone to DHT. It works totally differently than Propecia.
Mhm.
This one, the Rogaine cream, just opens up your blood vessels, which
Mhm.
the mechanism is not well understood. in medicine as to why this helps with balding. The theory is that there's more like red blood cells and more nutritious, like more nutrition can get to those follicles because you're opening up the blood vessels in those
Mm.
areas, but unclear. However, the Rogaine cream and it has really no side effects because you're
Mm.
just applying it locally to the scalp. It's not really being absorbed systemically into your body like the Propecia pill is. So this one has, so the Rogaine
Those are
really has,
usually, in general, right, much better received by,
hmm
I mean, because I know for antibiotics, for instance, something that's a cream, I always prefer that than taking the actual pill if it's something topical.
you're right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Any sort of, most creams or lotions or things like that that just go on the skin, like antibiotic creams, they don't really have systemic side effects because they just stay in that one area of your skin. Whereas a pill that you swallow goes to your whole body, so those have more wide ranging side effects.
Right.
But the Rogaine, so the advantage of the Rogaine cream on your scalp twice a day is that there's really no side effects. But the disadvantage is that it's not as effective as the
Oh,
Propecia pill. So you can't have it all.
you
Some people
can't have
use
it all.
them. I know some people use them at the same time because they have different mechanisms of action, right? One blocks testosterone to DHT, and the other one opens up your capillaries. So some people use them together.
What about hair transplants? There's this article
Yeah.
in the BBC about the actor James Nesbitt. If you James Nesbitt, if you know his work from Murphy's Law, um, he's The Missing. He's been around for a while. He's a great actor. He's probably more face famous than name famous. But an article in 2017, it says James Nesbitt hair transplants helped me get better roles. And it
Mm.
goes on to saying that hair transplants gave actor James Nesbitt a new lease of confidence, the Cold Feet star has revealed. Speaking to the Radio Times, Nesbitt said the highly publicized transplants had benefited his career. He was 52 back then, underwent several procedures over a number of years. He was quoted as saying, I was very happy to be open about it. He said, I just thought, come on, somebody is going to say it before I say it. It was something I struggled with, he went on, and that was probably the vanity in me. But also career wise, it had an impact. In terms of the range of leading roles I've had since then, it's probably helped. So it can help you with your career, right?
Yeah.
It's attached to your emotional state. There's psychological elements to it. So tell us a little bit about these hair transplants that men are getting. Is this a game changer thing? Why are they going to places like Turkey that seem to be a mecca for it?
So I think it is a game changer. In the olden days, like in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, we all heard about like hair plugs, and we all kind of would laugh about them and make fun of people who had them because it looked so fake.
Mm,
And what they were doing was, was they would take a clump of your hair from the back of your scalp because that part never goes bald. Like the hair
okay.
follicles from the back of your head are always there.
Mm,
It's just
I
like,
didn't know that. That's why you always,
yeah,
yeah, is that why they call it male pattern baldness? Because it's only
yeah.
in certain
It's
places?
exactly, it's only the top of the head, like it's only the top of the head that goes bald for men,
Mm,
and like that ring in the back persists
the friar ring?
unless you shave it. Yeah, but if you don't, yeah, it persists, and so those hairs never fall out. Those hairs don't have that the DHT receptor on them that makes them
Interesting.
susceptible to DHT and thinning. So the hair follicles in the back of your head are different than the hair follicles on the top of your head.
Again, you know what? The universe or God, whatever you believe in, is not that cruel because if it were the other way around, it would look really weird. You have hair, you'd look
So
like
funny.
the last of the Mohicans or something.
I would prefer that if I had to choose. I really would. I really would.
Really? I
I
think it
hate the
looks
ring.
strange.
I hate the friar tuck ring.
I don't
I just
know.
think it looks
I think,
so
like I said, it
tacky.
looks really good on the guys, that have that round head, it's,
Yeah, yeah. So in the olden days, before the technology was really good, the doctors they would take a clump of hair follicles, like a small clump of them, out
mhm,
from the back of your scalp, and then they would basically attach them to the front of the top of your head, and they would take another kind of largish clump and then attach it. And so what it wound up looking like was kind of fake. Like you had these clumps, these kind of like largish clumps of hair with a lot of with like space in between.
mhm,
Um, Kind of like a Barbie doll looks like, where she has, sort of semi-thick strands of hair coming, or like clumps of hair coming out from around her head, and you can kind of see that, like you can see the groupings of hair coming out of her head. And it
mhm,
isn't like every strand comes out individually. So that was the old fashioned way. But as technology has improved recently, they are now able to take essentially one hair follicle at a
mm,
time. And they take
wow,
one hair follicle out from the back of your head and then immediately put it into the top of your head. And then take the next hair follicle out from the back of your head and immediately put it into the top of your head.
so
And they take it from different places in the back of your
mm,
head to space it out, so it looks very natural. Yeah,
how many hair follicles do they actually take out?
it depends how bad your balding area is. Like if you just have the indentation, like what my friend calls the parking spaces, if you just have the
Mm,
indentation on the top of your, like on the sides, like the
the
top, like,
receding
yeah,
hairline?
the receding hair, you don't have to do that much. But if you've waited until you've lost all of the hair on your
Mm,
head and you just have that friar tuck and you want to replace all of that, that's like hundreds of thousands of follicles.
my goodness.
And so yeah, and that takes like multiple days of transplant, because they do, you know, one follicle at a time. They move one follicle at a time. Um, so that's the newest version, where they have like a little, they call it like a little plunger, or like a little special kind of a extracting device, where it's like a very small needle that goes into the back of your hair, around one tiny hair follicle.
Mhm,
And then they just, like, the skin just directly underneath that one tiny hair follicle gets cut, and then that hair follicle gets sucked out. It's like a very narrow, it almost looks like a pen.
is it
And then
painful?
no, not really. It doesn't, I didn't see anything about it being painful. Like, you go home the same day.
Mm,
And they give you anesthesia, like local anesthesia to your head while you're doing it. So I would say very minimal pain. um the the this is That's the newest version. The version before this was that they would, before they could take one individual hair follicle from the back of your scalp, the way that they would do it, and some doctors still do it this way, although this is not the most modern way anymore, is they
mhm.
would cut a very narrow strip of
Oh,
your
wow.
scalp across the back of your head, kind of like from the back of one ear, kind of down and around to the back of the other ear, a very narrow strip, like a half an inch wide, and as long as, like over a foot long, from the back of one ear to the back of the other
Right.
ear. And they would take that skin, and then they would basically cut it up into very small pieces, where each piece has like a couple of follicles in it. And then they would move like that little small piece of skin to the top of your head. So you
Mm,
have, not it's not one follicle, it's like a clump of like three or four follicles. Um so it still looks natural, but it doesn't look as good as like moving one follicle at a time.
right.
But the biggest attractor for that method was that you have, and then they basically, they just suture the area of skin that they took from the back of your head, they just suture it closed. And so you have a huge scar from
Mm,
one side of the head, the back of
it's
your
not
scalp,
ideal.
to the
Yeah.
other. Yeah, if you wear your hair long all the time, then the scar is completely covered up. But if
Right.
you like to have your hair short, then it shows. So that method has sort of fallen out of favor as we have the new method of this like pen that kind of cuts and sucks out one individual hair follicle at a
Yeah.
time.
And it seems to be that Turkey is the capital for this. Do we know
Yes.
why?
Um just not I mean, the only reason that they are so world renowned is that they have specialists there who have become very, very, very good at this,
Mm.
and they offer it at a very cheap price.
Yeah.
The surgeons who do this are kind of like artists. Like
Wow.
it's because they have to style your hair on the top of your head. Like they just don't no, they have to choose where they put the follicle on the top of
Right.
your head, and they have to make sure that the angle of the hair that's growing looks is growing or is being implanted at the right um like the hair, I guess the hair is growing out of follicles can come out at an
In the
angle.
same direction. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to when they implant it, they have to make sure that all the hairs are going in the right direction,
Right.
in the same direction and the right direction, and then they have to get the density like the density or spacing correct to make it look
Hmm.
even and natural. So there's a true like
There's an
artistic
artistry to it
sense,
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
sense to this. And so you really like experience really counts for this kind
Hmm.
of cosmetic surgery. And so the doctors in Turkey just have been doing it a lot, and so they have just gotten really good at it.
There's an
um,
article in GQ, written by Alex Hawkins, July 5th, 2022. Looks like he underwent this surgery in Turkey. He says, I'm lying on a table in Istanbul, and a doctor I've never met is about to cut 4,250 holes in my head. Wow, that many.
yeah.
He might be a doctor. I think he's a doctor. The procedure will take 6 hours. I have no friends or family within 5,000 miles. But in other ways, I'm not alone. Thousands have joined me. We're from the US, the UK, and the rest of Europe, and we've flown to Turkey, which is now the hair transplant capital of the world. Surgeries that cost $20,000 in New York can be found for 2,000 on the shores of Bosporus. We come here with sad hairlines and skimpy crowns. We leave with our heads shaved and raw, red, and scabby, and with the hope of newfound youth. At the Istanbul airport, a woman who works at the ticket counter tells me that every day she sees men who are clearly transplant patients, sometimes still in bandages and sometimes with blood leaking from their scalps. She says that this is so ubiquitous, we call it Turkish hairlines.
Ah, that's
That's
so
cute.
funny.
Yeah.
That's so
So
funny.
it's way cheaper. Wow, what a difference, right?
Yeah, the prices that I saw, um, that it said like a procedure that would cost $5,000 to $15,000 in the U.S. basically costs a third, so $2,000 to $6,000 in Turkey.
That brings me to the question of, well, that's another episode, the healthcare system in the US, but and how pricey it is. But there's a lot of, they call it medical tourism,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a lot
Medical
of
tourism.
Americans, so this goes on worldwide. It's not just limited to Americans, but a lot of Americans do go. Well, historically, they've gone to Canada or Mexico, but now they're starting to go everywhere to get elective and necessary procedures done. But historically, they've gone to Mexico for cheaper, pills, medicine, or dentistry was big.
Yeah,
In
yeah, yeah,
Tijuana, you could just go from San Diego to Tijuana, and it's substantially cheaper and to get your some dental work done, for instance. So
yeah. I mean, I'm a proponent of that. I mean, I went to South Korea for facial care to have like microneedling done and some like laser treatments. So I am a participant in medical tourism.
well, I bet but you didn't just go for that. You did like, hey, while I'm here, I'll partake.
Nope, nope. It was it
Oh,
was I
really?
yes, my friend and I, because I live in Japan, so my
Yeah.
friend and I, she suggested that we go to South Korea for, like, a long weekend just to
Mhm.
do skincare
Oh,
stuff because
nice,
it's so
'cause they're
cheap.
famous there for
Because
that.
it's yeah, so famous and so cheap, and so I was like, "Okay, I would love to, but I also if I'm going to South Korea, I can't leave without seeing the DMZ." So we threw the DMZ on at the end, but the primary purpose of the trip was definitely skincare.
Skincare. There you go. I'm glad you have your
Yeah.
priorities in check.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Well, no, that's great, and didn't you also go to the Dick Forest or there's a
Oh, no. There is like a it's like
there's
a
like a museum, right, of
statue.
statue
Yeah, there's
dicks
like a
or no.
statue park of yeah, of penises in South Korea. I did not go. I only went to Seoul, which is the capital, and I but that penis park, the penis statue park is not in Seoul, so I couldn't go see it. I looked into it, but it's like hours away.
Okay, I got some info on it. It's called Hazindang Park,
Ooh,
and
tell me.
it's all these, it's called Penis Park in the theme park called Samchuk, Gangwon Province of South Korea. The park is noted for its number of phallic statues. The collection created by Korean artists displays various forms of hanging arrangements to 3-meter tall trunks of wood. They're basically penises. I mean,
Wow.
it's just
Wow.
different
Yeah.
types of wood structures or concrete. It's a penis park. Yes,
I mean, every culture celebrates the penis in its own unique way.
yes.
Here in Japan, they have parades. Japan is a very conservative country in a lot of ways, and sex is not like openly talked about.
Mhm.
So I was very surprised to see that like one day a year they celebrate the penis in
Really?
yes, in street parades. They have huge floats with gigantic penises on them. And
Wow.
like they build these like platforms that dozens of people have to stand underneath to carry, and they have gigantic penises coming up out the top.
My
And
lord.
yeah, and they say it's for fertility and things like that,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's a
of
huge
course.
penis parade in a country that can't even talk about sex.
Yeah, that usually goes hand in hand,
The
but
ironies.
I think we need more penis parades,
I mean,
in our lives.
you're at Pride. This is Pride Month, so you're gonna have
Yeah,
an
it's
entire
basically one
month
big
of penis parades.
yeah, in every city all over the world.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I love it. We
Oh,
haven't really done too much celebrating of Pride here in Okinawa, where I live in Japan, but I think Tokyo has a big parade that some of my friends are going to.
yeah, Tokyo is, it's, it's the capital, and it's got usually gays flock to the capitals in the bigger cities, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it has a burgeoning, gay community.
Yeah.
I wanna go visit when I visit you, we surely have to go to Tokyo. Um
Yeah. There's a little gay district of Tokyo that I've
Mhm.
been to. And one of the funny things here is that the gay men here, like, they're like Japanese. And so, and they like to twin. They like to wear identical clothing. So
Most
that,
gays like to date their twins,
yeah, well, no, these people, like, they look identical and they're wearing, like, the exact same outfit.
that's cute. I
Yeah.
don't know
It's
if I
very
could
interesting.
sustain that, long term, but
I don't know. Yeah, it's just very interesting. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I noticed it." And then the person that I was with, my boyfriend, he was like, "Yeah, it's like that. They do that a lot here."
yeah,
I had
wow,
never noticed it. Yeah,
that's really
I
cool.
guess it's a way of like staking your claim. Not you
Yeah,
can't do a wedding ring here. I don't think. I don't think you can get married.
you just
I'm not
gotta
sure actually.
wear the same Gap
Same
clothes.
clothes, and that's how everyone knows that you're each other's partners.
It's funny. Um, well, this was, really enlightening for you to tell us the history of hair transplants and everything we need to know. I still think that, bald men look very sexy, and, there's a whole camp out there of just own it, shave your head
Hmm.
and just go with it. And people look really great. But there are also some men that really it helps them with their self esteem. And I totally understand why someone would go get hair transplants. I'm very attached to my hair. I think for some weird reason, you just think it's just hair, right? But it's linked to a lot of psychological elements such as self-esteem. So whatever works for you, there's no shame in either, but I think bald men are very sexy, and if you don't want to go through all that ordeal, then just embrace your graceful aging and baldness, and work with it, because I think a lot of people enjoy it, and there's a lot of sexiness to it. So anyway, but yeah, we did hear a little bit about. I was very curious because you see these um, pop up, or at least in my Instagram, of people getting hair transplants, and you just wonder why it's become so popular. And it looks like it's because it's pretty effective, and there seems to be new treatment for it. So,
Oh, I should add though, just as a
mhm.
as like a side note, that I forgot to mention earlier, is that when you get the hair transplant that I was talking about, like the one follicle from the back of your head put onto the top,
Yeah.
that after a couple of months, all of it falls out.
Oh wow. Oh
All
okay.
of it falls out, and you go back to looking bald again. But then over the next
It grows.
6 to 12 months, yeah, like it grows back, and then your hair looks then it looks normal, but it takes a year of patience until it looks good.
So it
So
acts
it's
as a seed. It's kind of like you're.
yes, yep, the hair follicle that they transplant, the hair that's in that follicle dies,
Mm-hmm.
but that hair follicle kind of grows roots, if you will, into your skin, and then it creates a new hair, like a new hair, and then that hair survives.
Yeah,
So
it's a
so
little bit,
it's
but then
yeah.
it lasts long, right?
Yeah, it
It's
lasts
your hair.
forever.
Yeah,
It's permanent. It takes 6 to 12 months of patience until the new hair grows in that follicle. But then after that, a permanent solution, because the
that's
the
fantastic.
hairs, yeah, the hairs in the back of your head, they don't go bald, and so then now the ones on top of your head won't go bald. So yeah, it's a permanent solution.
That's great. That's an
Yep.
option for you guys out
Yep.
there. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Kristen, for joining me on another wonderful episode. And hopefully, we'll get to hear more about your travels too on the
Yeah.
next one.
Absolutely. Anytime, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thank you guys for listening. Please, if you like our episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, this was another episode with the Aging Queen. Thank you. If you or someone you know are in crisis and need help, please reach out to a caring professional at SAMHSA's National Helpline by calling 1 800 662 HELP. That's 1 800 662 4357. Or you can simply text 988 on your phone. More information can be found by going to findtreatment.gov. That's findtreatment.gov. The information provided on this podcast are opinions and are for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not substitute professional medical advice. Consult a medical professional or healthcare provider to seek medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.